did they grow? And so in so doing, we came up with what we call the house-to-house 6-step model to success. Now, in establishing this model, we're going to address some of the more difficult issues, like how do you talk to someone about the Bible? How do you get them into a Bible study? How do you get them to sit down around a kitchen table, which is still the most successful place to have a Bible study? I don't care if you're in Jamaica, the United States, Brazil, or Honduras. There is no place more successful than sitting around a table that they eat and opening the Word of God. That's our 6-step model. That 6-step model you have on your table this morning, and that model is contacts, prospects, Bible studies, baptisms, new converts, a growing church. It's based on 3 words. It's a popular, and in fact, a book has been written on it. I didn't originate it. Bring them, teach them, and keep them. All right? And so we're trying to establish contacts. That's the number one mission of a church in evangelism. And let me explain why. If you're a teacher and you have no students, you have no class. If you're a doctor and you have no patients, you have no practice. If you're an airline and you have no passengers, you have no business. If you have Walmart and have no customers, you're bankrupt. All right? If you're a recruiter and you have no recruits, you have no army. If you're a coach and have no players, you have no team. If you're a church and you have no contacts, you don't have a church. We have to have contacts. Now, most congregations never get past first base. And when they call and they say, hey, we're struggling with evangelism, Brother Whitacre, tell us, what can we do? I always ask one question. It's the same question. It doesn't matter who asked it. I'm going to ask them the question, how many contacts do you have? These are the responses I get. Oh, Brother Whitacre, we've got 2 or 3 great contacts right now. Or we don't have any right now, but we're working towards it. If you're a church of 100, let me give you some numbers. If you're a church of 100 members, how many contacts do you need to grow? Okay, according to the data that we've gathered, you have to have 1,000. A church of 100 needs 1,000. If you're a church of 200, you need 2,000. If you're a church of 50, you need 500. It's a multiple of 10. Now, that's a far cry from 2 or 3. And so when a church calls and says, oh, Brother Whitacre, we're struggling, I say, how many contacts you have? We have 2. You're so far off. You're so far away of where you need to be. No wonder you're not growing. Brother, can you imagine Walmart? Walmart, how many customers do you have? We got 2 or 3 today. They're not going to make it. They're going to go bankrupt. If you said Delta Airlines, how many passengers do you have today? Oh, we got a couple. You're not going to make it. And so we've got to understand that this is where evangelism begins, and for most churches, it's where it ends. If you don't have, you can have 1,000 Jewel Miller film strip projectors. You can have 10,000 copies of Back to the Bible. You can have every method under the sun. But if you don't have contacts, it doesn't matter. You can have the best baptistry the world's ever seen. You can have cards and love and compassion and a church full of good works, and it doesn't matter if there are no people. So let's just start with rule number 1. Step number 1, how do you get contacts? Who are the best contact creators in your local church? Who are they? It's you. It's not your preacher. Your preacher's the worst contact creator you've got. You know why? He's surrounded by you. He's going to your hospitals. He's going to your doctors. He's going to your family. He is surrounding himself with you. All right? He's a terrible contact creator. You know who the best contact creators are? The members. You got to engage the members. And sitting in your pew are people that know family, friends, they know co-workers, they know community members that are lost. I'll just demonstrate. How many of you right now know 10 people that are lost? Raise your hand. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. We have what, 100 contacts? Just like that? I mean, all you got to do, brethren, is look out in your church and say, how many of you know 10 people that are lost? All right, now I've got to access that. I got to pull it out of you. And what we do at our school is we have some very good techniques of getting that out of the members. So if your members do not give you contacts, you're done. You're finished. Now, there are a lot of ways to gain contacts, and in our school, we're going to teach you different ways to obtain contacts. Now, you got to prospect the contact. So if you have a contact Taylor and you walked up to him and said, hey, my name's Taylor, would you like to have a Bible study? How successful is that going to be? Not very successful. People are going to, most of the time be resistant. They're going to look for their exit. They're going to find a way out. And they may even just be plain rude. Why would I want to do a Bible study with you? Why don't you do one with me? Well, if you go from contact to Bible study, you almost guarantee loss. But if we go from contact to prospect, now prospecting is the act of love and kindness and compassion. It's intentional. Its intent is to get the Bible study. And so every act we do with those contacts is designed to soften the heart. It's designed to till the soil. If you don't till the soil, that seed's not growing. So we got to get the soil in the ground. We got to break it up. And so Jesus was the master at this. He was. Where did he spend most of his time? Who was he with? He was with the lost. In fact, he spent so much time eating with sinners, they called him one. Your Lord eateth with sinners, he's a publican, he's a wine bibber. And they would make fun of the Lord. It's because he spent time listening to them, eating with them, talking with them. With the Pharisees, well, we wouldn't spend time with them. Well, that's why the Pharisees were in a dead religion. All right? That's why the Pharisees are, that's why there are no Pharisees, at least technically today. The Sadducees are done. They didn't propagate. Who wants to be a Pharisee? Who wants to be one of them? They don't spend time with the very people who need them. And so here you have the contacts that are being prospected. Now, we got to teach you how to do that. Her name is Brandy Fleming. She walked down the aisle, and I'd asked the church at Willette to start a congregational evangelistic work. We're building it one step at a time. One of the things we did is I said, hey, I'd like you to bring me names, bring me people you know, but don't bring me the name until they have a life event. All right? Because I want there to be an opportunity for us to reach out in love. So if you just reach out and start loving people randomly, they're going to think you're very strange. But if they've had a car accident, if they've had surgery, if they've lost their job, I'll give you 35 categories. In fact, in the book, Evangelism Simplified Guidebook, y'all have it in the bag, and I think it's on maybe page 104, 102. There is an actual list of 35 different life events that a person goes through. When they have a life event, bring me their name. She did. On the piece of paper, Sharon Fisher, she said, Rob, Sharon Fisher's gone through surgery. It's not gone well. She's been very disgruntled. Her church is really not reaching out to her. I think we can reach her. So we immediately put her on the prospect list. If you had your evangelism, it's in the bag. I know it's hard to get access to all that material. But there is a book, and in that book on page 105, you're going to see this list. Now, every church of Christ needs this. How many of our churches have a prayer list in the bulletin? If you have a prayer list, raise your hand. Everybody does. All right. Why don't we have a prospect list? Oh, I'm talking, these are a list of people we're trying to reach. So if I were to ask an average church, who is it you're trying to reach right now? Brethren, you ought to see the expression in the faces of elders and preachers. Do the members even know about it? Oh, no. I said, no, we have it in the office. What good is that going to do? I want a public prospect list. I want everybody to know who it is we're trying to reach. We're going to pray about them. We're going to reach out to them. Now, if you want to call it the love list, the compassion card list, the prayer list, that's all right because it's public. And I want people to know we're praying for them. So we're going to put the name of Sharon Fisher on the list. Relationship, friend of Brandy Fleming. Description, she's recovering from surgery. And I'm going to hit the box that says multiple. What I want us to do is to practice a congregational approach. So, it's not very difficult for me to resist Taylor. I can resist Taylor. And Taylor can try to, he can try to convince me to do something, and I can just back off and, Taylor, I'm not interested. What if the entire staff at Heritage Christian University tried to convince me to do something? I mean, Kirk went all out. He got Brother Harmon, he got Brother Harrison, he got everybody and their wives, and everybody came to me and said, hey, Rob, we need you to do this. It's going to be really difficult to resist that. That's the difference between personal evangelism and congregational evangelism. What we're going to do is we're going to use the influence of a church to try to convert somebody, not the influence of one. We're going to do that we're going to love them like they've never been loved before. So instead of one card being sent by one member, we're going to send 70 cards. We're going to send 3 cards a day for 3 weeks. We're going to send 4 cards a day. We're going to overwhelm them with love. And so here's a person who's just had surgery. They're not doing well. And Brandy lets them know that our church is going to pray for you, and we're going to send you a few cards. And they get 3 to 4 cards every single day. Now, you get 3 or 4 cards for 5 days, 10 days, 20 days, 30 days, and they start to mount up, and you start putting them all over your desk, and you're reading them. They're encouraging you. Sharon goes to Brandy Fleming, and she says, Brandy, when you said that church was going to reach out to me, I had no idea. She said, they have brought me out of a dark place. I want to thank them. And Brandy says, just come. We start at 9 o'clock on Sunday. So sure enough, that Sunday morning, they walked in the door. Nicole and I walked up. We introduced ourselves. They said, hey, my name's Jimmy. This is my wife, Sharon. I said, Sharon? I said, are you Sharon Fisher? She said, yes. I said, hey, we've been sending cards to you. We've been praying about you. She said, are you the preacher? I said, I am. She said, I can't thank you enough for them cards. She said, man, I've got cards everywhere. She says, can you thank the church for all the cards they've sent? I said, absolutely. So I got in the pulpit. I said, hey, church. I said, we got Jimmy and Sharon Fisher sitting with us this morning, and they want to thank you for the cards and your prayers. And people just surrounded them, right, and said, thank you for coming, and they were kind. After services, I do what I always do. I'm pretty robotic. I went up to him. I said, hey, Jimmy and Sharon, we got a little custom here at this church. Well, what is it? I said, we always invite members or visitors out to eat. I said, there's a little restaurant up the road. Could I take you to eat? And they said, well, sure, So we went up to the little restaurant. We sat around, just talked. And I'm going to use my introductory questions. Again, number 1, y'all remember what it is? Hey, where are you from? Where are you from? And he said, I'm a local boy. Grew up near Portland. I said, yeah. I said, I know where that's at. And Jimmy's already lived around the area, and he talks a little bit. Sharon, where are you from? Well, I'm from the Bayou. That's all that needed to be said. She told me everything there is about Louisiana. The Cajun food, the alligators, and, her schooling, her upbringing, her family. I got a whole history lesson about her life. That's what I wanted. And at the end of the discussion, it's going well. I said, guys, are y'all going to come back and visit? Oh, man, yeah, we loved it, yeah. So got them right where I need them. And so we left. We went back to the church that Sunday night. I said, church, we had 2 visitors this morning. And I said this. Sometimes you preach. Most of the time you preach. Sometimes I talk. And this time I just talked. I said, church, we need to talk. I said, we had 2 visitors this morning. They're from this community, and I need your help. And I said, I need everyone to go to the compassion card room. I need you to get the cards that say, come back soon. We want you to return just for visitors, and I want you to overwhelm them with love. That's exactly what the church did. The church did their job. When the church does their job, I can do my job. I can't do my job without you. I promise I will not reach you if you don't do your job. I cannot evangelize without you. So therefore, the church sends the cards, she's overwhelmed, and I'm in my house and I get this note. I saved it. When I read this note, I said, we got something that works. Rob, I received a message from Sharon's husband, Jimmy. He said he and Sharon had received at least 4 cards a day, thanking them for visiting or wishing Sharon well. He says just the type of church they've been looking for, one that would take care of Sharon if anything ever happened to him. He says he's still praying and trying to let God lead them where they need to be. He said, Rob, I tried to be very encouraging. I offered to answer any questions they might have or even have a Bible study. Now, Rob, I wasn't expecting him to message me back so quickly with the question, do you have to be a member there to take communion? Now, Rob, I know the answer to this, but I feel like if he's asking that question, he needs to know a whole lot more. Any suggestions? Suggestion number 1, Taylor, don't answer the question. That was my first thing I said. I said, Brady, please don't answer that. I said, don't answer the question. I said, here's what I want you to do. I want you to ask them questions. And I said, I want you to get them to come back. And she said, Rob, I've got that. Sunday morning, they walked into the church. They sat down. After church, I walked up. I said, hey, Jimmy and Sharon, what'd you think of the church service? Oh, I liked it. I said, we got another custom at this church. And she said, well, what is it? I said, my wife is the best cook in Macon County. My daughter is the best dessert maker you'll ever meet. I said, why don't you guys come over to our house this week and we'll get to know each other? Wow. They said, yeah, we'd like to do that. I said, okay, what day works best? They said, Tuesday, 6 o'clock. I said, okay. So Tuesday at 6 o'clock, they walked into the house, and we sat around, and I used the introductory questions. I've already done introductory question number 1. Now I'm going to use introductory question number 2. I said, okay. I said, I looked at Jimmy and Sharon. I said, Jimmy, what is it you do for a living? That's the second question. He said, I'm a security guard at Bonnell. I said, okay. And he tells me, about being a security guard. He's really enjoying it. Then I said, hey, Sharon, what do you do for a living? She says, I'm a kindergarten teacher. Brethren, that's all that needed to be said. For the next 45 minutes, I got a complete discourse on every child in her classroom. There was nothing that was left out. Sharon is passionate about her children. It was a good night. We went around the table and we ate. And after we finished eating, Sharon looked across the table and said, hey, Rob, can I talk to y'all? I said, sure. What's going on? She said, Rob, we are religious. I just wanted you to know that. I said, well, I figured you were. You're good people. Rob, we go to that big community church in Westmoreland. I said, I know the one. Hey, Rob, we do mission work for them. There's a children's home in Honduras. We go there every summer. I said, God loves children. I'm glad you do that. And they said, well, Rob, when I got sick, I had surgery 2 months ago. Rob, I haven't got one card, one phone call, or one visit from my church. She said, Rob, I haven't been there in 2 months, and I don't think one person's missed us. I've never been more hurt in my life. I said, I'm so sorry, Sharon and Jimmy. I don't know what to say except that would not happen at Willette. I said, that should never have happened. And I said, I tell you what, guys, we love y'all, and I'm so glad you visited Willette. And she said, well, wait a minute, one more. She said, ever since I've been married, she says, I have never been invited to anybody's house. This is our first time. I said, it's our privilege. We love it. I said, I'm so glad you're here. I said, in fact, it's getting late. I said, why don't we do this again next week? Y'all just come back and we'll do it. Jimmy said, Sharon said, yeah, I'd love that, Jimmy. Would you? He said, would she cook any more meals? I said, sure. What do you want? He said, lasagna. I said, we've got it covered, Jimmy. Lasagna next week. I just want them back. They came back. They walked in the house. We sat down around the living room. Nothing's off limits. Brother, here's what you need to realize. In our culture today, there's literally no topic off limits. They spill everything. Nothing's held back. But I need to get us on track. And so what I'm going to do is ask a religious question, but in a very non-threatening way. So I said, hey, Jimmy, what do you think about the morals of our country? Jimmy says, Rob, they're bad. I said, well, why are they bad? Rob, it's all about God. I said, well, tell me about God. You see how I did that? I made it very general. And he starts telling, he said, Rob, we don't pray anymore. We don't have Bibles in the school anymore. He said, Rob, we kicked God out of government. We kicked God out of the schools. And he said, Rob, did you know it's all in the book of Revelation? That I did not know. And I said, Jimmy, tell me about the book of Revelation. Remember, I'm just asking questions. He said, Rob, 666, 144,000, Battle of Megiddo, 1,000-year reign, volcanoes, earthquakes. Rob, you got to get ready. You'll be left behind. Brethren, we did all that literally in 60 seconds. Who wants to start a Bible study out in the book of Revelation? Anybody? Okay, not me. All right. So I looked at him and I said, Jimmy, I said, the book of Revelation says a lot of things. I said, I've got something that can help you. I said, in fact, I got something that everybody loves. Would y'all walk over to the table here just a minute? He walked over. I said, it's called Back to the Bible. And I said, let's go to John 8:32. And they sat down. We opened our Bibles and we started the study. All right. I need to get them into an organized study so we can walk through. And they loved it. I mean, they're learning. For the first time in their life, they're actually doing a Bible study. We finished that study that day. Sharon, she got irritated at the end. In fact, she goes, you could tell she's visibly irritated. In fact, she makes a little fist. And, I said, Sharon, are you okay? She says, no, I'm not okay. I said, what's wrong? She says, I want to know how I've gone to church all my life, and I didn't know the difference between the Old and New Testament. I said, I don't know. And she says, I've learned more in this Bible study, Rob, than I've learned all my life going to church. I said, would you like to learn more? And she said, I would. I said, let's come back next week. I said, we'll cook another meal. I said, Jimmy, would you come back? If she'll cook a dessert too, I'll come back. I said, yes, dessert's included in this meal, Jimmy. And so they come back for the second week. We do the second study, and they loved it. They come back for the third study, and we do the third study. And as we finish and we conclude, Jimmy and Sharon, you can tell, are getting it. And Sharon says, hey, Rob, I think Jimmy and I need to be. And Jimmy says, wait. He said, Rob, are you trying to tell us we're going to hell? And I said, Jimmy, did I say that? He said, no. I said, what makes you think that? Is it something you've read in the Bible? Because, Jimmy, all I'm doing is reading the Bible. And I said, if you've not done something this book says, we can fix it. I said, why don't we just keep studying? And if you need to make changes, I'll help you. And I said, if you've done what the Bible says, you're my brother. And so sure enough, as we continued our studies, he eventually said, Rob, I think Sharon and I need to be baptized. And that's exactly what happened. This is Sharon Fisher within a year of that conversion, sitting across the table from another recent restoration. That's Betty McCarter. We got two brand new people right there, and guess what they're doing? A Bible study. Let's go to the other side of the table. That's in Jamaica as well. That's Richard Pratt. He's a Methodist. That's Jimmy Fisher, all right? And they were going to that community church, and they're doing a Bible study. So I got a question. How is it that brand new Christians are doing Bible studies, and those of us who've been in the church for 30 years, we don't know enough? Here's what I've learned about new converts. New converts don't know that Bible studies don't work. They don't know that. People don't care how much you know until they know how much you care. That's the bottom line. And if we don't prospect our contacts, there is not going to be a Bible study. And so as a church, we've got to learn how to make contacts. And your membership is the number one source. They will bring you names, but you got to ask for them. You've got to engage them. It's got to be a congregational engagement. Your preacher or elder has to get up before that church, and you've got to pull it out of them. You've got to do different things to get them to come forward, because your church is not going to just automatically bring you names. You're going to have to train them to do it. You're going to have to give them tools to do it. You're going to have to emphasize it. What gets pushed gets praised, and what gets praised gets pushed. You know who taught me that? Chris Donovan. I've quoted him in every seminar because Chris gets that. Because if you don't push it, I'm telling you, it's not going to work. And so if we don't help people understand that this is the focal point, we're here to obtain contacts from you. And I need to know who you know. Do you know anybody right now with cancer? Are they lost? All I need to know is the name. I want you to, do you know anybody's fallen away from the church? Do you have a name? Well, let me ask this question. Kirk, what if we ask our members questions like that? And what if we took a list, I made a prospect list of those people, and we took the whole church, and the whole church went to love them? You think we might get some of them? Absolutely. You think we might make an impact? Absolutely. You think we might? Here's what our numbers tell us. If the entire church reaches out by just cards, I'm talking just cards, to those who've fallen away, do you know what the restoration rate is? The minimum, 30%. We have seen it up to 70%. I know that's a broad range. I'm just telling you what our numbers see. We see between a 30 and 70% restoration rate just from congregational cards. Now, I'm not talking about one card. You know that, right? I'm talking about like 70, 80, 100 cards. I'm talking about like every single day they get cards that say, we love you. Your seat's still warm. Your pew's still here. Your parking spot's available. We miss you. We'd love to see you again. What can we do for you? I mean, that's the kind of stuff we're talking about. And it's amazing what happens when you engage a church to do things like that. And so now a church has purpose. Now everyone's got skin in the game. No one's a loner. This is not about your preacher. This is about you. And we need your help. And I want to know, who do you know, brother? If you don't ask your members, they're not going to tell you. Are they? Praising God and having favor with the people. And the Lord added to the church daily such as should be saved. Did the early church have the favor of the people, yes or no? What does that mean, they had the favor of the people? Well, here's what it means. It means it was a kind church, graceful church. It was a giving church. It was an acceptable church. It was a church that gave the shirt off their back. It was a church that would even sell the stuff they had to give to others. This church cared. Did the church of the Pharisees have that reputation? No. The church of Christ did. And the church of Christ grew. People love the church of Christ. So if your church shut down, like let's say wherever it is you attend, I don't know where you attend, but let's say that church tomorrow just shut its doors, would the community know? Jesus increased in wisdom and stature and favor with God and man. That's your word. What I like about this word, I love word studies. And if you do a word study on the word favor, here's what you're going to find. This really amazed me. It's only used twice in all the Bible to describe a human being. That's interesting. I guess it doesn't shock you who one of them was, Jesus. Remember, the church had the favor of the people. The church is about people. Jesus, people. Jesus increased in wisdom, stature, favor with God and man. Here's where I want to focus. Jesus was a man of the people. He had the favor of the people. Did people like to be around Jesus, yes or no? Was he a hermit? Did he just try to keep to himself? No, absolutely not. In fact, because of that, Jesus was called what? Oh, he's a wine bibber. He's a friend of publicans. He spent so much time with people, they made fun of him. How much? When's the last time we had a sinner in our house? When is the last time we had someone outside of the church and we went to eat with them? We went to a ball game with them. We went shopping with them. When's the last time that happened? You went to the gym and you worked out with them. Some say, preacher, what you're asking today just doesn't work. Brethren, I just disagree. And I get it from the Bible. I'll tell you why I disagree with that. All right. The Lord God said, it is not good that man should be alone. I will make for him a helpmeet. When people say, oh, Rob, that doesn't work, you can't create relationships like that today. Listen, we live in the virtual world. People don't respond to that kind of stuff today. Well, I disagree. In fact, I'm going to go to the other extreme. Perhaps there's never been a society in the world that has been more thirsty for favor than ours. You know why? Because they don't have it. Brethren, they don't have it. They do not have this. And because they don't have this, because they're missing this, they have virtual relationships, virtual friendships. They have social media connections. You know what they don't have? You. They don't have warm-blooded human beings to talk to. Guess what happens when a warm-blooded human being talks to them? They open up. I mean, they're just waiting for it. So I'm going to contend that our culture today is more easily evangelized than almost ever before, because they're thirsting for relationships. They're lonely. Here's 4 things to add to the 3. Remember the 3 principles I gave you? There's 7 total. Here's number 4. Open up your house. Brethren, just invite them over. Just get them in your house. And let's look at this. Have we forgotten that our home is a mission statement? I mean, where should there be a better evangelistic place anywhere in the world than your house? It's biblical. And daily in the temple and in every house, they cease not to teach and preach Jesus. Where did they teach people about Jesus? In their homes. When's the last time you did that? Acts 2:46, they continuing daily with one accord in the temple, breaking bread from house to house. Did eat their meat with singleness and gladness of heart. Where did they do it? In their homes. Let's go to Acts 20:20, how I kept back nothing that was profitable unto you, but I showed you and I taught you publicly and from house to house. Where did they do it? In their homes. Why aren't we doing that? I mean, why aren't we sharing that? I realize there are situations where we can't. I understand if you're a single lady, there may be some limitations. If there's a single man, there may be some limitations. You have to adapt a little bit. I get that. But let me ask you this question. Who in your church is doing this? Who's opening their home? Who's bringing people in? Who's feeding them? Who's having meals with them? Somebody's better do it. Maybe not everybody, but who's doing it? Because if no one's doing this, if no one is practicing this right here, are we not just taking, how many tools are we removing from the Bible? Because that's how they did it. I can tell you that a lot of our conversions, we've had hundreds of, Nicole and I have been blessed to have hundreds of studies, conversions in our life. And I can tell you almost every single one of them happen around our kitchen table. Kirk, you said the most evangelistic man you know is your dad. How many of those Bible studies happen around a kitchen table?
Kitchen table or coffee table, almost every one of them.
Almost every one of them. So who in the church is going to do that? Let's go to our next one. This is number 5, hospitality. We've got to show hospitality. That's just kindness. That word hospitality doesn't always involve your house. It just means be kind, be compassionate. All right, this means go fishing, Taylor. This means go work out with them. This means you go run with them. This means you go shoot hoops with them. This means you go shopping with them. This means you go do a craft with them. This means you go to a fair with them. This means you go to the ball game with them. This means you go sit with them in the hospital. This means you go pray with them. It just, you show concern. You love them. That's a tool. So hospitality becomes an art. Have we lost the art of hospitality in our culture? Let brotherly love continue. Be not forgetful to entertain the strangers. Have we forgotten the strangers? Yes, we're good at taking the preacher out to eat. We're good at it. Hey, preacher, let's go. I'll take you out to eat. Get whatever you want, preacher. I'm not trying to discourage it, brethren. Take your preacher out to eat. We're grateful. When's the last time you took a sinner out to eat? When's the last time you took a non-Christian there? All Christians must display hospitality, every single one. But you know, to be an elder, you have to be proven in it. I can count on less than one hand, maybe one finger, how many sermons I've heard on hospitality and what it means. And is this man that we're considering to be an elder hospitable? Oh, we'll find out how many children he has. I mean, we're going to find out what that means. Faithful children, what does that mean? You know, how long do they have to be faithful? How many have to be faithful? What if they leave the home and one becomes unfaithful? I mean, we dissect that. I have never seen us dissect that. Hospitality. Is this man hospitable? How about his wife? Are these people that really care about other people? I mean, you can go to the very life of Christ and see it demonstrated with Martha and Mary. What did Martha do? She invites Jesus in her house. She's hospitable. Or is she? Jesus, I can't believe that my sister has left me alone to serve. Bid her to come in here and help me, Jesus. I mean, I can't believe my sister has done this to me. I mean, I've got dust bunnies in the corner. My floors have not been swept. What am I going to feed him? I mean, my walls don't look nice. My house has the musty smell. I mean, Jesus probably has a peanut allergy. I'm going to kill him. I mean, she is completely distracted. Jesus says there's only one thing that matters. There's just one thing. And Mary has chosen the good part, and I will not take it away from her. All Mary wanted to do is talk to Jesus about the Word of God. Hospitality is not about your housekeeping abilities. Brethren, ladies, if you don't think you can cook this evening, may I suggest go to the KFC, get the bucket, put it in the platter. They'll never know. This is not about, how good of a meal. This is about us extending love to people. And if we don't do that, I promise you, your evangelism comes to a screeching halt. We got to listen. This is number 6. Wherefore, my beloved brethren, let every man be swift to hear, slow to speak, slow to wrath. We have got to listen to people. I can tell you of all the evangelistic skill sets, this one right here is at the top of the list. You must listen to people. Do not talk over them. Do not correct them. Do not challenge them. Just listen to them. God gave you 2 ears and 1 mouth. You're supposed to listen twice as much as you're supposed to speak. If you'll listen, this is what's going to happen. Hey, Taylor, in my first marriage, That's kind of important, isn't it? They'll volunteer and tell you. I mean, they'll tell you all about their first marriage and their second and third. They have no reason to hold back. They're gonna tell you, hey, man, I got this struggle with alcohol. It's bitten me, and I can't get rid of it. They're going to tell you about it. Why not? I mean, why wouldn't they tell you? I mean, there's because we live in a virtual world and people have very shallow relationships. When they finally get a meaningful relationship, they will tell you everything. They're going to tell you about their relationships. They're going to tell you about their inner struggles, their moral questions. Brethren, if you'll just listen to people, they will tell you everything you need to know to bring them to the cross. There is nothing hidden. They're going to tell you about their religious beliefs. You believe in God? Yeah, I've often thought about, where did we come from? What do you think? He said, well, I think there's got to be something out there. I mean, these are the discussions you're going to have if you just listen to people. All right, that's quality number 6. I'm going over these pretty quickly. I realize it. There's 7 of them, but they're significant. Let me switch to the 7th one. Hesitate. This is your last one. All right, you got to hesitate. You got to hold back. All right, so you literally have to have the ability to play the long game. Now, what that means is when you're sitting there talking to them, they're going to bring up things that just rub you wrong. Taylor, you a sports fan? You have a college team that you enjoy rooting for? Who is it? LSU. So they're going to be sitting at the table, no doubt. And they're going to say, man, I tell you what, I'm a Razorback fan. And one thing I cannot stand in them LSU fans. I mean, there it is. I mean, they're the worst fans in the country. I mean, I can lose to any team but LSU. And you're sitting there. And you know what you're going to do? Nothing. You're going to hesitate. What did Jesus say when he started performing miracles and he looked at that person? He said, hey, don't tell anybody. Tell no man. It's not time right now. How many times did Jesus say this? Answer them not a word. He didn't reply. How many times did Jesus in his ministry choose not to talk? He chose not to say anything. How many times did he hold his peace? How many times did he answer never a word? Brother, when you begin to go over this kind of stuff, what you see is that the Son of God on multiple occasions chose to hesitate because it's not the right time. Now, here's what I want to challenge you to do. When you're sitting with someone and they're talking about, I don't know, how much they love their sports team but hate your sports team, and how they love their politician but hate your politician, I'm going to ask you to do this. Do not climb Mount Politics. Do not climb Mount Sports Team. Do not climb Mount Version, Mount Tongue Speaking, Mount Miracle, Mount Second Coming. Don't climb the mountain. Are you really going to convert them on Mount Version? Are you really going to convert them on Mount Sports Team? Is that really where you want to pull out the sword and we're going to go all in on Alabama? I mean, if they're not in Alabama, I mean, that's the only team that matters. And we're going to go all in on the Tennessee Vols. We're going to go all in on the Republicans. You got to be a Donald Trump fan. If you're not a Trump supporter, I don't want anything to do with you. Is that where you want to die, on that hill? There's a lot of our brethren that die on the wrong hills. They pull their sword out. They march up. And then we die on a hill that brings us not to Golgotha. Brethren, let me be clear. I'll die on Golgotha every day of the year. But I will not die on Mount Sports Team. I will not do it. That's hesitate. You got to hold back if you want to be an evangelist. You got to realize there are some hills to die on and some not. If you don't do that, I can promise you, evangelism is not going to be effective in your life. You got to hold back. Those are 7 principles that I've taught. I gave you 4 more. I went through them quickly, but they're not difficult. These are really life skills. They work in any place in life. Let me put them on the screen for you. Make sure you've written them down. Now, you add the 3 that I taught you this morning to these 4, And I promise that your evangelistic success is going to skyrocket. Can you imagine incorporating these all into one? Well, that's what I did. I incorporated every one of these into the Bible studies that my wife and I do, and what we've seen was incredible conversions. I'm going to close this session, and then I know, ladies, you have a class for Nicole, and you'll be able to dismiss, but I want to close this session with this story. Brandy Fleming walked down the aisle just like I asked her to do, again, with the name of Dustin McKinney. And she said, Rob, I got another one for you. She's a bringer. I said, what do you got, Brandy? Dustin McKinney. He's a basketball coach for Red Bowling Springs High School. Now, Red Bowling Springs doesn't produce a whole lot, but they breed basketball players, and he's very good. Here's how I know him. I coach for Cookeville. I coach for a high school in Cookeville. He coaches for Red Bowling Springs. We're going to play each other. I don't like to play him. He's really good. And so when she said, Rob, he's got cancer, it's inoperable. Hey, Rob, can we put him on our prospect list? I said, absolutely. Remember that list I showed y'all in the beginning of this lesson? We put him on the list, and guess what the church did? They overwhelmed him with love. Overwhelmed him with love. Cards were sent. Prayers were offered. When you do your job, what do I get to do? Mine. So I got to go over to his house with my son. He opened the door. Hey, Rob, what's going on? Hey, Dustin, I hear about the cancer. Yeah. Hey, Dustin, my son and I just wanted to come by and pray with you. Is that okay? Well, yeah, man, you pray. So we prayed, and hey, man, Rob, that meant a lot that you came and prayed for me. I said, well, we love you, Dustin. I said, Dustin, can I come back and pray again? Man, Rob, you can come back any time you want to and pray. Don't worry, I will. I have one mission. I went to church the following Sunday, and I took an elder with me after church. I said, let's go see Dustin McKinney. We walked up to the door, knocked on it, he opened it up, and, hey, Rob, who do you got? This is a friend of mine. Well, just come on in, Rob. No, I'm in the house. I have one mission. I walked in the house, we sat down, we started talking. He's watching a Tennessee game. His son is named Neyland Stadium. He's a Vol fan. Go Vols, I don't care what team I have to root for. I don't care. Are you willing to root for the Vols for a Bible study? You willing to root for Alabama? How about the Hogs? Where's your love? I'll root for them all. I really don't care. And I'm sitting there in the living room, and we're talking, and I noticed, guess what I noticed? They're everywhere. Guess what? What do I see, ladies? Cards. Your card, your card, your card, your card. There's 100 cards in that house. Thank you for doing your job, Taylor. Because when you do your job, I'll do mine. Now it's really simple. Hey, Taylor, I said, hey, Dustin, where are these cards come from? Oh, Rob, he said, they came up. He said, Rob, they came from your church, Rob, that church you preach for. Hey, Dustin, I noticed your lawn is getting pretty high out there. I said, Dustin, the Willette Church of Christ will mow your lawn until you're better. Steve Draper, an elder, says, we will. When you work with elders, it's better to ask for forgiveness than permission. Works really good. How hard do you think it's for me to get a Bible study here? We finally got the surgery scheduled. They found a doctor to do it. I sat all day long in the surgery. After the surgery's over, I said, Natalie, I need to talk to you guys when Dustin's better. She said, you'll be the first person, Rob, we talk to. I'm in the house with Dustin and Natalie, and he said, Rob, what is it that you wanted to talk about? I said, I just wanted to ask you one question. How much do you know about the Son of God? He says, not enough, and I'd love to know more. I said, I just so happen to have these little booklets. They're called Back to the Bible. And we baptized him. Now, I got a question for you. Can you send a card? Can you give me a name? Can you send a card? Can you mow a lawn? Why aren't we doing this? Why isn't every church of Christ in America doing this? This is what we teach in our school. If we can get our churches engaged to do this, we will grow. I don't know a church doing this not growing. One of the most effective tools we have in our school are compassion cards. Nicole wrote a book. You're about to learn about it. This is what Sharon Fisher wrote. The hospitality we were shown made all the difference to our willingness to get involved in a Bible study. If Nicole's not involved, I don't have a study. She's the key. to it all. Ladies, you have gifts that I don't have. And without you, we're not going very far. We're a team. Remember, I started out this morning and I said I don't ask for Bible studies? You know why? Because I earn them. If you have to ask for a Bible study, you're not doing your job. You'll earn every study you get because you're going to invest in people. Jesus looked at Zacchaeus. He says, Zacchaeus, come down from there, for today I must abide at your house. He earned the study. We've got to be like Jesus. I hope this is helpful to you. We're going to take a few-minute break, and I want to give the ladies an opportunity to go. Hannah, can you show the ladies where the classroom is they're going to? And it's classroom number 12. My wife has some gifts for you ladies she's going to give you. And then we'll reconvene here in just a few minutes, and we'll continue our discussion. Thank you, everybody. I appreciate that. Well, brethren, we're about to begin our next session, and so we have taught 7 principles. We started this morning. I've walked you through them. We kind of hurried through the last 4, but I think you have the thrust of what we're trying to do. So we're gonna take everything we teach back to this model tomorrow. I'm going to give you access to our curriculum. Our curriculum is proprietary. You do not have access right now, but what I need you to do is, if you can, give me your email address and name before I leave, and what I'll do is I'll grant you access. So I give access to anyone who goes through our training. It is the congregational model. It is the key to our school. When people ask, well, how do you get these baptisms? It's because of that model. It's because of that module. So if you go through the training and you complete the training, you need to contact us, and we will share that material with you. And that is material that I do not cover normally in a class session, but I will tomorrow cover some of it. And so if you're with us tomorrow, I'm going to give you a glimpse into what a congregational model looks like, how to set it up from beginning to end. And this is what we do with elders and how we help churches develop that cultural change. Cultural change is the hardest change to make in a church, but it's necessary if our churches are going to grow. Let's go ahead and look at number 4. So in 2020, we had the opportunity to go to Sarasota, Florida. And in Sarasota, we have an elder down there. His name's Ronald Doderlin. Brother Doderlin, for 2 years, had put this together. He wanted to get as many churches in Florida there. He wanted us to come in and do the training, and he was successful. Hundreds of people were there. They had elders, had gotten hotel rooms, and it was really well put together. When we pulled into that church building, it was packed, and I was so excited. And Brother Doderlin said, all right, Rob, he says, I've done my job. Now it's your turn. Well, I was so excited to see that crowd. It just came to me. I can ask questions to this audience, and I can get a feel for where we're at. So I did. Number 1, I said, how many of the elders and preachers and members that are in our audience, how many of you this evening have a method to teach someone the gospel of Christ? Brethren, I counted the hands. There were 10. There were 10 hands that went up. And I'm looking at that audience, and I said this. I said, if General George Washington was at the Potomac preparing for his advance on the British soldiers in that those winter days near Christmas, and if he said, who's here prepared to go into battle? And 10 of his soldiers said, I'm with you, General Washington. We'd have lost. We're looking at the cream of the crop, and we got 10 people prepared to engage someone in a Bible study. I want to introduce a method, because the fact is, we're not competing. No one has one. All right. So it's extremely rare that I go into a congregation and members of the church, I've got a method, I'm comfortable with it. And let me preface these remarks. If you got a method you're comfortable with and you're converting people, you know what my advice is? Use it. Keep using it. I'm not here to try to suggest my method's better than your method, but I am here to suggest that it's important to have more than one lure. Because not every fish bites on the same lure. And every fisherman knows when you go out fishing, you need a tackle box. And in your tackle box, you need a lot of tackle. And what we want to do with our students, with the churches enrolled in our school, is to provide them a lot of different methods. And so we're gonna teach you about does it matter, back to the Bible. We're going to teach you about believe the Bible. But in this session, what I want to do is I want to teach you about back to the Bible. I want to go back to that chart just real quickly. So this is the chart that Christian school put together, and they extrapolated data to try to project where we're going. Now, let me give you some warnings about projections. Projections are based on the status quo. So if the status quo changes, the projection changes. So this was the projection out of 2016. In 2016, with our demographics being 60% over the age of 50, 13% under the age of 30, they said, okay, we roughly have about 12,100 churches of Christ to the best of our ability to ascertain. All right, where are we going? 2019, we'll have about 11,400 churches of Christ. What's alarming is that's exactly where we were. They were spot on. All right, let's take it more. 2022, where will we be? We'll have just under just over 10,000 churches of Christ. Brother, that is exactly where we are today. They hit their numbers. So where are we going to be 25 years from there? And how do they get that data? Well, let me again, I'm not a mathematician. I'm not a scientist. This is not my area. But I did ask. I said, how did you get those numbers? They said, Rob, if 2/3 of our church members are over the age of 50, we're going to lose 2/3 of our church members in the next 25 years. You don't have to be a mathematician to get that. We're losing 2/3 of our people in the next 25 years. You know that we had a baby boom generation in the church as a result of evangelism, as a result of Jewel Miller, Open Bible Study, Back to the Bible. We boomed. I mean, we really grew. We're losing that generation. Brethren, by 2049, it's estimated that we'll only have about 3,000 churches. We're going to have about 3,000 churches left. Let me give you membership. This is their data. It's not mine. I don't create these things. I'm just reporting it. They said, okay, we had almost 1.2 million members of the Lord's church in 2016. All right, where are we going? All right, well, 2019, we should have about 1.1 million. That's exactly where we were. 2022, about 1 million. As far as I understand, that's about exactly where we are today. Where are we going to be in 2049? We're going to be about 275,000. Brother, I pray to God I don't ever see numbers like this. I pray to God that this does not come true. But I cannot ignore that 2/3 of our membership, they're going to pass from this world. I'm going to lose my dad. He's part of that great generation. I'm going to lose him. And we're going to lose that generation that comprises the 50%, the 60% of the church. So who's going to replace them? I can't emphasize enough how important evangelism is. Brother Wendell Winkler once said, and I love Brother Winkler, I loved listening to him. He was the prince of preachers. He said, brethren, if we don't arise and evangelize and baptize, we're going to fossilize. And I've never heard he's not a prophet, but he couldn't have spoke the truth more plainly. I mean, we're looking right now at the results of what will happen if we don't address this problem. We have a generation that's risen that knows not personal Bible studies. So I want to introduce to you back to the Bible. If you can look in your bag and take them out, you can take the big teacher's edition out or the small ones. So if you have, I saw you have those just a few minutes ago. Brother, would you hold that up for me just for a minute? And they look just like this. I'd like you to have them at least available. You may want to make some notes because this right here, this is the tool that I want to focus on. And you might be asking, Rob, why would you focus on back to the Bible? Because in our efforts to reach the lost, we find that about 70% of the Bible studies we do are 70% of them they go right to back to the Bible. Now, I realize there are people who are not ready for back to the Bible. For example, Southwest Church of Christ in Austin, Texas, okay? So the Southwest congregation in Austin, Texas, they're in the heartbeat of what we would call the Las Vegas of Texas. That's what Austin is to Texas, all right? And so I asked John Garza, he's actually one of our regional trainers. We have 9 regional trainers in our school. These are 9 guys who are working to train churches. And I asked John, I said, John, when you do Bible studies in Austin, Texas, I said, tell me, how many times do you have to use another study besides back to the Bible because they don't believe in God? And John says, Rob, about maybe 1 out of every 5, 6 studies, I've got to start with Believe the Bible. Now, we have another study method called Believe the Bible. It's in your bag. But in Austin, Texas, he says, Rob, I got to start in a different location. Now, here's the fact. If they don't believe in the Bible, they don't believe in God, you can't use this. Where did the church begin? What city? Jerusalem. Where do you think you should begin? Jerusalem. Where did the church go after Jerusalem? Samaria. They were kind of religious, right? They believed in God. They had their problems, but they're certainly not in Athens. Where did they end up? In Athens. Here's a suggestion. Why don't we start in Jerusalem? Why don't we start in Samaria? In other words, when you start evangelism in a church, there's low-hanging fruit everywhere. Pick it. Let's start with the people that believe like you. Let's start with the people that have similar belief systems. And you'll find that's where Back to the Bible excels. It excels as we work with people that have similar beliefs. They believe in God, they believe in the Bible, they believe in Jesus. But what do you do with people who don't? I use a different lure. I use believe the Bible. Now, I don't have time to teach you about all those lures, but what I can do is I can introduce what you're going to use most often. We still, even today, use Back to the Bible almost every time. The Great Commission says, go ye therefore and teach. And we know it's the Great Commission, and that's why we spend millions of dollars sending people to every country on earth. What has become the Great Commission in Peru, what is the Great Commission in Andhra Pradesh, is the Great Omission in the United States of America. We just don't do it. You know why we don't do it? Oh, it don't work. It don't work. You can't reach the lost in America. You know, I've tried this before. Well, I have 400 people that have been baptized this year, and we're only 3 months into the year, who disagree. We know it works in America if you work it. I mean, what evangelism plan works without working it? Well, we know that if we can reach out into our neighborhoods, we can and will evangelize. So we need to teach our members how to do it. I want to read a statement from a preacher student. I'm not going to identify him or the school because I'm not going to embarrass him or the school, but I want to read what he wrote. Hey, Rob, I've just heard your 5 lessons on becoming a soul winner. I've been preaching for just over 7 years after graduating from a school of preaching. At the end of each of Rob's lessons, I felt myself overcome with sorrow. The sorrow was from the realization that although I know the gospel and I can present it and teach it competently to the brethren, I am woefully inadequate at presenting it to those outside the Lord's church. Rob, time after time, you spoke about things we ought not to do while studying with unbelievers. And time after time, I admit it, I do that. Things like chasing rabbits, something we do to alleviate the doubts of the brethren, telling instead of showing, actually allowing the unbeliever to guide the study. I came to realize that while the school had prepared me well to preach the gospel, I had not learned how to teach those outside. Brethren, the difficulties we encounter are probably not about our Bible knowledge or love of God. It may be the result of our manner and method. I think he nailed it square on. I think he hit the bullseye. Is it possible that we have trained a generation of pulpiteers to preaching sermonettes, and we have not trained soul winners? Is it possible that we have raised a generation of people that are more comfortable with the brethren, talking to the brethren, and preaching to, crowds of 5,000? I want to know how we reach the sinner. I want to know how we reach your neighbor. I want to know how we reach the lost. He walked in the church building. He's 6'4". He's a giant. He's got his little wife and 4 kids, Johnny, Julianne, Jenna, and JC. And I walked up and I said, hello, my name's Rob, my wife Nicole. And he said, hey, my name's Jonathan Royal. And this is my wife. And I said, well, it's nice to meet y'all. Glad you're here. I said, I tell you what. I said, did you guys just move here? Actually, we did. About 3 months ago, we just moved here. I said, well, great, glad to have y'all. I said, do y'all know someone? Did someone invite you? He says, you did. And I said, wait a minute, I don't remember meeting you. He said, well, someone in this church did. And he brought out a copy of House to House, Heart to Heart. That's our publication we send out. I said, oh, yeah. He said, I got up this morning and I saw that publication. And I said, hey, family, we got to go to church somewhere. Hey, Dad, where are we going? We'll go there. And he looked at me. He said, sir, since you guys came to us first, I think we give you the first crack at us. I thought it was pretty good. I said, okay. He went through the service. After service, I walked up, and guess what I'm going to do? Anybody have a wild guess? I do the same thing every time, except this time. I made a mistake. Instead of inviting them out to eat, what I did is I invited them over to my home for dinner. My wife had made dinner, and I thought I'd just cut to the chase. Let's get to the house. Here's something I learned about culture today. It doesn't work. They don't know you. They don't want to come. If you invite someone out of the blue, you've just met to dinner, they're going to think you're a serial killer and they're not coming. Okay? Don't do that. What you need to do is take them to a public place, like a restaurant, and I should have done that, and I didn't do that. So one of the things I do now is I'm teaching this to churches. I say, step 1, take them out to eat. Step 2, take them to your home. Because after they get to know you and they realize, hey, you're not going to kill me if you're not going to take me down an alley. Hey, you're just like me. Oh, yeah, we'll come over to your house. Yeah, we'll eat with you. So it's just culture is all it is. Now, Kirk, I know you do a lot of mission work, but when I'm in the mission fields, everyone invites you into their home. It's just customary. In fact, they'll give you their bedroom and bed. I was late, really late. A preacher walked into his house. He said, you'll be staying here. And I got in bed, and I was so tired, I just fell asleep. Got up the next morning. I walked out, and him and his wife were on the floor sleeping. I felt this big. I never even thought about them not having another bed. That is customary in a lot of, they will give everything they've got for you. That's how they treat visitors. That's not our culture. I'm just saying, it's not us. And so we have to, again, adapt to the culture we're in. We got to understand that we can't change it. I'm just going to accept it. All right, take them out to eat. That's the cultural thing to do. All right, so we took him out to eat. So I said, well, Jonathan, if you don't want to come to my house, what do you want to do? And he says, why don't you come to my house? So he's the serial killer now, So I said, okay. I said, when do you want me to come? He said, what about tomorrow, about 2 o'clock? I said, I'm coming. And I looked at my children, and I said, you grab anything that says ball. Volleyball, basketball, soccer ball, football, tennis ball, racquetball. I said, take it to their house. They got 4 kids. I said, I want you to take them outside and play. That's exactly what happened. So they got the football. All the kids are outside. I'm in the house. And I got him. This is exactly what I wanted. I said, Jonathan, what'd you do for a living? He said, I was in law enforcement. Doesn't bother you, does it? And I said, no, I love law enforcement. I said, where are you from? He said, I'm from Florida. I love Floridians. Not a problem. I said, Jonathan, are you religious? Yeah, I went to a big community church down there, Rob. And he says, my son was saved in that church. Then he just went down forward and said, praise Jesus. And he told me all about it. And I listened. I hesitated. I don't agree with much of what he's saying. I'm practicing the hearkening skill. Number 6, all the skills I've taught you, I'm practicing every one of them. And he even talks about the end times. I deferred it. He asked me a question. I just deferred it. I didn't answer. As we're sitting there talking, I said, Jonathan, tell me, these are my transition questions. I told you that I would give these to you. This is how I get a Bible study. Question number 1. Hey, Jonathan, what do you think about the Willette Church of Christ? Oh, man, I love them. They are nicest people. He said, you guys are really friendly. I said, good. I said, Jonathan, number 2. I said, do you know a lot about the Willette Church of Christ? Don't know a lot, Rob. He says, first time to ever visit a Church of Christ. Number 3, would you like to know more? Brother, how hard is that? Literally, how hard is that? It's not difficult, okay? So if I were to ask those questions, if they say, I'd like to know more, guess what they just ask you to do? A Bible study. They just ask you to do a Bible study. So I put myself in a position, in a condition where it's ripe for the study. Okay, they're not just complete strangers off the street, right? The conditions are set. We enter into the study. I open it up. He said, well, wait, just 1 minute, Rob. He said, I need to tell you something. I said, what is it? He said, remember I told you my son was saved in that church. Rob, after my son was saved, we kept going. And one day we got there and the preacher, he was gone. I said, what do you mean gone? He said, he disappeared. I said, what'd you do? He said, we kept going back. We kept coming back over and over again. And he says, Rob, one day we got there and it said, church closed. And he looks at me and this is what he said. He said, you're not closing anytime soon, are you? I said, not that I know of. He says, good, I don't want to ever go through that again. I said, I understand. I said, is it okay if we look at John 8:30? He said, yeah, but he says, I want to tell you something. I'm a former detective. He says, and I believe that you're going to lie to me, and I don't mean to be disrespectful to you, Rob. He said, I just believe you're going to lie. I said, well, I'm not going to do it on purpose, Jonathan. He said, well, what I mean by that is I'm going to question everything you teach me. I said, that's great. I said, I want you to. So I turned to John 8:32, and something happened in John 8:32 that I have never seen before. Something happened that I have never witnessed before. I said, Jonathan, Jesus says the blank will set you free. He looked at me and says, how do you know it's Jesus? what would you say? You know what I said? I said, the letters are red. He laughed at me. He said, that's not good enough. I laughed too. I said, I knew that wasn't good enough. I said, Jonathan, read verse 31. He says, and Jesus said. I said, is that good enough for you? He said, it is. He said, that's just an example, Rob. He said, you have to prove everything you teach me. I said, it won't be a problem. It's called back to the Bible. Everything we learn will come out of the Bible. After about 30 minutes of studying, he looks up at me and he says, I got it. He says, you haven't taught me one thing I couldn't find in the Bible. He said, that's what I'm looking for. We walked through that study. We finished it, and I mean, they loved it. And Jonathan said, man, Rob, I've learned more about the Bible than this. I've never done a Bible study in my life. Thank you. I said, could my wife and I invite you over next week? We'll eat dinner and do the... He said, yes, we'd love to come over. So we came over. We did the second study. It went well. Then we went over the third study. And I got to the end of the third study. Stephanie tears up. She looks at me, and this is what she said. Hey, Rob, neither Jonathan and I have ever been baptized. And then Stephanie, I said, I think we can fix that for you if you want us to. And she said, yes. I said, let's go to the building. I took him to the building. We baptized Jonathan. We baptized Stephanie. That's not the end of the story. Because now we got their son. He's 15 years old. Remember, he was saved in that church. So I went to Jonathan immediately. I said, Jonathan, we got to do a Bible study with your son, Johnny. He said, oh, now, Rob, Rob, you know, I don't want you to do a study with my son. He actually pointed his finger at me. And I said, Jonathan, what do you mean? What do you mean you don't want? He said, do you got any of those booklets, those Back to the Bible booklets? I said, yes, they're on the evangelism table. He said, I need 3 sets because we're going to do the Bible study with our son. Brand new Christians doing Bible studies. I mean, they are literally wet from the baptistry, and they're conducting a Bible study. Brethren, it was absolutely amazing. I was with Brother Tom Holland at the time, and Brother Holland and I were visiting, and I got a phone call. I said, Brother Holland, I said, I got to take this. He was actually at Willette, and I said, it's one of our new converts. He said, go ahead, Rob, and I took it, and they said, Rob, we need to see you right now. I said, where are you? They told me. I went over to the location. I got there. Jonathan and Stephanie were in the room. I said, you guys okay? And they pointed. Johnny was at the end of the table with his head down with Back to the Bible laid out. I said, son, are you okay? And he picked his head up and tears streaming down out of his eyes. Mr. Rob, I'm lost. I'm lost, Mr. Rob. I said, not for long, son. I said, not for long. We walked over to the baptistry. We baptized him. I want to know how brand new Christians are teaching people the gospel of Christ. And yet again, I'm going to ask, when are we going to do it? Oh, I don't know enough. Do you think they knew enough? They just came out of the water. So what is Back to the Bible? Back to the Bible is a study that's simple. That's what I'm trying to suggest. The only reason I told you this story is because we're having a brand new Christian teach it, and if brand new Christians can teach it, you can teach it. It's simple. New converts are using it. If new converts can use it, anyone can use it. 3 studies, 90 minutes to complete. Yes, no, fill in the blank. We can't make it more convenient. All right? This isn't a 15-week study. This isn't a 6-week study. It's a 3-study booklet. No discussion questions. You don't need to know Greek. It's probably better that you didn't. All you got to do is just be honest and read. And so with this study, you can take someone very simply through an evangelistic course. Number 2, it's scriptural. It's based on the King James Version of the Bible, but you can use any version. Let me tell you about Brittany Langford. She walks into the house. She puts her Bible on the table. She goes to the bathroom. I pick her Bible up, and I looked at it, and it said New American Catholic Bible. I looked at my wife. I said, we can't have a Bible study with the New American Catholic Bible. It's got books in there that don't even belong. I mean, we got the Maccabees books, a book of whatever. And I said, man, and I about had a meltdown at the table. Thank God I came to my senses. She sits down, and I remembered my 7 principles. Do I really want to die on Mount Version? Now knowing what I know about Brittany, I would have died on Mount Version. Guaranteed. That would have been the end of it. You know what I did? I did the Bible study using the New American Catholic Bible. You know what she did? She obeyed the gospel. But this is when I learned. After the study, we're together doing new convert studies. Rob, have I ever told you the story of my Bible? I said, no, Brittany, you haven't. That was my grandma's Bible, Rob. Grandma gave it to me before she died. It's the family Bible. Brother Hollis, what would have happened if I had, what do you think would have happened if I insulted the family Bible? It would have been over. Do you really want to die on Mount Version? Now, and I don't want anybody to get wrong. I'm not suggesting that Bible versions don't matter. I am not suggesting that. What I'm suggesting is that's not the hill I'll die on. I'm suggesting that's something I can cover later. And so we do. And so, yes, it's based on the king, but you use any version they want to. It's not, in 25 years of using Back to the Bible, I think I've used it about 25 years. All right? I can't think of one time a Bible version caused me problems. Not once. In fact, I can't think of one time when someone said, well, I'm not going to do that if that's the version it's based on. It only becomes an issue when you make it an issue. Don't make it. In fact, I would suggest it's a bigger issue with the brotherhood than it is with the non-brotherhood. All right. It requires Bible reading. All answers from the text. It follows the scriptural order. Well, Rob, what's the scriptural order? Everybody take your Bibles to Acts 8. I want to share something with you. I didn't know this, and I'm going to tell you who taught me. I'm going to tell you who taught. I'm going to let a missionary's wife teach me something. Her name is Wilma Bates. Bobby Bates' wife still lives. She's advanced in years. Her mind is still pretty clear. I visit with her every year. She lives in Stevensville, Texas. And Bobby passed away in year 2000. So here she is, and I'm sitting in her home, and I said, Miss Wilma, I said, tell me something about Back to the Bible. I said, how did Bobby write it? Why did he write it this way? Well, Rob, it's scriptural. I said, I know that. No, Rob, the order is scripture. And now that I did not know. And I said, tell me what that means, Wilma. Watch this. I can't believe I've never seen this. Acts 8, verse number 4. Therefore, they that were scattered abroad went everywhere preaching the word. Then Philip went down to the city of Samaria, and he preached Christ to them. When you preach the word, you got to preach Christ. When you preach Christ, you preach the word. But what does that mean? Does that mean we talk about Jesus, his birth? Does that mean we talk about him 12 years old? What does that mean? You know, the wedding feast at Cana? What do you mean you preach Christ? There's a lot of things that could be included in that. But Philip tells you. Look at verse 12. But when they believed Philip's preaching, the things concerning, here it is. Y'all ready? You got those Back to the Bibles, everybody? All right. The kingdom of God, the name of Jesus Christ. He baptized them. All right, everybody hold up the green booklet real quick. You got the green booklet? That's the name of Jesus Christ. Everybody hold up the blue booklet. That's the kingdom of God. Everybody hold up the red booklet. That's baptism. When Bobby Bates wrote Back to the Bible, what he did is he went to an inspired evangelist, of which I'm not. And he said, whatever Philip did has got to be right. So if Philip thinks we need to talk about the name of Jesus Christ, book 1. If Philip thinks we need to talk about the kingdom of God, book 2. If Philip thinks we need to talk about baptism, book 3, then I'm all in. Brethren, you will not come up with a better method than Philip. I'm hearing some troubling things today. Oh, you can preach to man, but you don't got to preach to plan. Are you kidding me? You know, if we'd stop talking about the Church of Christ, we'd baptize more people. Yeah, and you'll never see them again. There's a guy out west. He baptizes a lot of folks, and I know a member where he attends, and he called me. I didn't call him. And I asked who your preacher is. I said, man, I know that. He baptizes a lot of people. I said, y'all must be busting at the seams. He baptizes all these people. And I asked him, I said, tell me, how's it working? He said, well, it'd be great if we ever saw him. So what do you mean? He said, well, that's what he does. He baptizes them. What happens if you baptize somebody and you don't ever teach them about the Church of Christ? Are they ever coming? No, they're not coming. And how do you baptize someone without teaching them about the kingdom of God? What did Jesus come to do? Repent, for the kingdom of God is at hand. Brethren, the kingdom is the Church of Christ. You don't baptize people without the church, because you're baptizing them and they become members of the church. Salvation is in the church. So I want to emphasize in this class, if you're going to evangelize, you better talk about the Church of Christ. We better not skip the church. We better not exempt ourselves from the church, because that's not the biblical model. Let's go here to the last one. This is my favorite part of my whole seminar. Next 10 minutes, fasten your seatbelt. It's the best part of this entire seminar. It's successful. I asked Wilma Bates, I said, Wilma, when you guys did Bible studies, you and Bobby, what was the success rate? I bet your dad has a similar success rate, Kurt. Just about every evangelist does. About 9 out of 10 people that will walk through, if I can get them through 3 studies, 9 out of 10 times are converted. I went back home after Wilma told me that, and I counted up all the studies Nicole and I did, because I keep a record of every study I do. With 94% of them were baptized. Since I've been in Jacksonville, Alabama, I've been there 6.5 years, there have been 2 people we've studied with who did not become Christians in 6.5 years. Because that's what a Bible study method does. They're very, very successful. Now, if you don't believe me, let's listen to them. This is Cindy Rowland, Jonathan Royal's mother-in-law. As soon as you baptized his son, he said, hey, Rob, my mother-in-law is coming from Florida. You got more of those back to the Bible? I said, sure. Now, Rob, she's going to be more difficult. I said, Jonathan, do the same thing you did with Johnny. Well, how do you think I'm going to get to study? I said, ask her to come over for dinner. Have Stephanie cook. And ask her if you could tell her a little bit about the church you're attending. She'll say yes. He called me at 9 o'clock that night, and he says, Rob, I just finished my first Bible study with Mimi. That's what we call her. And Rob, she loved it. I said, Call me when you finish book 3, Jonathan, and I'll help you. And he did. You know what he said? Hey, Rob, I've never baptized anybody before. Can you help me? And I said, I'll be right there. Preachers, the best Bible study that the church can have are the ones that you don't do. I promise you that. Willette grew like fire when the members got involved. When it stopped being about me and it started being about them. When we started to see the members engage people in the community. And that's what congregational evangelism does. But hey, maybe you'll believe them. So here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to show you the churches enrolled in our school. I'm going to bring them up on the map, and I'm going to show you their baptism totals. This is Dustin Dotery, church of 20 people. This is in Beloit, Kansas, in the middle of absolutely nowhere. 2 years ago, Dustin called me. He says, hey, Rob, we need to start evangelism. He said, can we enroll in the school? I said, I can't get there, Dustin. For 2 years, he said, can we do it remotely? I said, yes. We sifted him the videos. We got him the materials. They started. They had 5 baptisms in 2022, 4 baptisms in 2023. They are now averaging 40 in attendance. 2 years, doubled. This is the Foothills Church of Christ, Joshua Alexander. And Josh Alexander Searcy is not an easy place to evangelize. And he started in July. He's one of my students. I teach at 10 schools. He's gone through our course. He got there. He says, Rob, we're going to do this. I said, go for it, Josh. 11 baptisms. He's already had 6 this year. That's a church of 90. Let's go to the next one. Hatton, Alabama. Chris Miller. They went through it. This is a church of about 170, I believe. They had 18 baptisms. This is Jerseyville, Illinois. This is a remote church. His name is Jake Medford. He's not a preacher. He's an engineer. They asked him if he'd just fill the pulpit. So he calls me and says, Rob, if I'm going to fill the pulpit, we're going to evangelize. I said, can you send me a remote enrollment package? I said, absolutely. How many members? He trains the church. Last year they had 7. This year they're continuing. Let's go on. This is Honolulu. This is Tagalima Essene. Tagalima has been so successful, we actually asked him to be one of our trainers, and he joined our school. He has been incredible. In 2022, my family rolls into Honolulu. When we got there, we're surrounded by skyscrapers. They literally had to unlock a gate to get us in. It's downtown Honolulu, and I am way out of my comfort zone. And he locks us literally into the compound. And I looked at Tagalima. I said, why am I locked in? He says, well, it's for your own good. And I looked at my wife and I said, this will never work. That's what I told her. I said, it will never work here. I looked up and there's this woman laying on the grass. I said, Lima, who is that? Oh, it's one of the homeless ladies. In your church building? Yeah, we let her live here. Why do you let her live here? It's dangerous out there, Rob. I mean, I am so far out of my comfort zone. And I'm looking at my wife, my children. I said, Lima, is it safe here? He said, yeah, you'll be fine, no problem. He said, hey, it's Hawaii, you know. And for the next 10 days, we trained that church. It was extraordinary. The members were overwhelmed. They couldn't have been more supportive. I mean, they put the lays on me every time I walk in the church building. You know, I had more lays than I knew what to do with. I'm pulling out of the driveway. I'm pulling out, right? He unlocks the gate. Hey, Rob, he knocks on my window. Rolls the window down. Hey, what's up? What's going on, Lima? What's the record, Rob? I said, the record? Yeah, what's the record? I said, baptisms. I said about 25%. We'll beat it. He did. They baptized 27 people in 12 months in 2022. You see where it says hits 10%? You want to know what that means? We set a goal for every church in our school to baptize 10% of their membership. If you're 200, that's 20. If you're 300, that's 30. If you're 400, that's 40. They hit it in 22 and 23. They're about 130 strong now. They had, I think he's had like 8 baptisms this year already. This right here is the Carnes Church of Christ where Steve Higginbotham preaches. They enrolled in our school in the summer of 2022. They had 50 baptisms in 12 months. They've already had about 20 this year. You think a big church can do it? Sure they can. But they trained them. The elders were very intentional. That eldership, I mean, I've never seen an eldership more on point. When I met with that eldership after the training concluded, I mean, you could feel the intent in that room. We will not fail. This will become the heartbeat of this church. Incredible what they've done. This is the Lafayette church there. David Payton, he has Lou Gehrig's disease. They literally have to carry him into the pulpit. Every year they hit their numbers. They already have 5 this year. They had 9 last year. This right here is La Plata. Eric Sykes, he's a real estate agent. Eric has baptized 50 people in 2 years. In 2020, he contacted me. He said, hey, Rob, he says, I want to learn how to evangelize. Can I enroll in the school? I said, sure. He learned it, and he's reporting baptisms like almost every week. He's reporting baptisms. So finally I called him. I said, Eric Sykes. I said, where do you preach, brother? He said, oh, I'm not a preacher. Where do you serve as an elder, Eric? I said, I'm not an elder. I said, who are you, Eric Sykes? He said, I'm a real estate agent. May we all become real estate agents. 50 baptisms. So he then, last year, towards the end of the year, he moves to La Plata. He said, there's a little church out here, and I've got to teach them evangelism. He baptized 7 like that. It's amazing. He's one of our regional trainers, by the way. He works for us. This right here is Lake City Church of Christ, where T.J. Gifford is, and 16 baptisms. I should identify where all these went to school, because you'll see Heritage is represented, you'll see Tri-Cities represented, you'll see Brown Trail represented, you'll see Freed-Hardman represented, Memphis represented. You'll see every school. These preachers are focused. It's amazing what's happening in these schools. Look at Carthage Church of Christ, right here, 8 baptisms. Randy Chambers, remote. Let's go right here. Linville Forest, 11 baptisms, North Carolina. Let's go right here. Madison. This church right here is ready to close its doors. This is right outside Freed-Hardman. Kirk, I'm not sure if you know where this is at. The Madison Church of Christ. This is right off the interstate, right before you get to Jackson. And Stephen Sprouse called me. He says, Rob, we're going to close our doors if this doesn't work. He said, we were a church plant years and years ago. They have a beautiful little building. No one's there. Less than 20. He said, can we get you to come train us? They had 4 baptisms last year, which means they were only 20 strong. That's good. They've already had 2 this year, and this congregation is going to make it. He said now they're regularly having 35 to 40. In fact, some of the Freed-Hardman students, I reached out to them. I said, could y'all become members at Madison and help them? And they are. This right here is a Lackland Terrace Church where Will Brown is, and they had 8 baptisms just north of San Antonio, a church of about 40. This right here is Glencoe, and this is where I moved our membership last year. Because a little church called me. Brooks Boyd is the preacher. He says, Rob, he says, man, we're not going to make it. They went from 180 members in 10 years to 40 in 10 years. We baptized 5 last year. We've already baptized 5 this year. We really worked hard on reaching out to those who fell away. We used compassion cards. Our average attendance this year has been 103. This right here is the McKinsey Church of Christ in West Tennessee, 17 baptisms. This right here is Timberville, little church, Elliott Asbury, 5 baptisms. This here is Midtown, 23 baptisms on the border of Texas. This right here is up to New Hampshire, Lake Regions, little church, 40 members, 5 baptisms. This here is Natalia, out in the middle of nowhere in Texas, 7 baptisms. This right here is New Concord, Terry Townsend, 10 baptisms. This right here is North Meadville, 7 baptisms. This is Northern Oaks, 20 baptisms. This is East Flushing in Queens. Brother, if we can baptize people in Queens, we can baptize them in Florence, Alabama, don't you think? This little church doesn't know how not to evangelize. They've already had several this year. Let me tell you about one of their members. Her name is Crystal Gonzalez. She's a graduate of our school. In fact, Clarence Jenkins asked the entire church to individually enroll. Every one of their members graduated from the school. They're a little church. She brought 12 people to Christ, just one lady. A brand new convert. This church has been amazing. Let's go here. This is Paintsville, Kentucky. And this is where Johnny LeMaster, everybody knows a baseball player, Johnny LeMaster. They're killing it there. Their little preacher, homegrown, never went to school anywhere. I mean, you're talking about this, his name is Zach Collins. They walked through this material. Last year they had 21 baptisms. Brethren, I think they're at 15 this year. It's amazing where they are this year. This is a church of 100, not anymore. Let's keep going. This is Town Acres in the middle of a cornfield, 8 baptisms. This right here is Rabun County. Well, that's not very successful, Rob. It is when you start a church with 2 people. And he literally just started a church with him and his wife because there was no church in the county. Now they're having around 15. And they had 2 baptisms last year. And I said, that's pretty successful. You got to grow. You got to start somewhere. Right here, that's Sanford in the Boot Hill. That's in the bootleg of Missouri. 6 baptisms. They were a church of 50. Now they're a church of 60. They've already had 4 this year. This right here is Southside in Grand Rapids, Michigan. They had 8 baptisms. This right here is Southwest. This is where I graduated from school. They had 18 baptisms. Incredible. This right here is University. 70 baptisms. This right here is Warner Robins, 29. Are you sure it doesn't work? Because all these churches enrolled in our school went through our training. Daniel Steersman, it's amazing with that church. When I went to that church, there's about 140 members. Now there are over 200. This right here is New Hope in the middle of the cornfields of right near Middleton. Cole Wade is their preacher. He does David Shannon impersonations. He'll bring the whole auditorium into complete laughter. I've never seen he is so good at what he does that David Shannon one time actually thought it was his voice. That's how good he is at it. And he asked us, he said, hey, would you come and teach us evangelism? I said, sure. They have 2 elders there, just 2. One's an old basketball coach. They actually call him coach. They had 40 people. You know what they have today? 100. They have so many people today, they literally don't know where to put them. It's a little building. This right here is the Woodstock Church of Christ, 24 baptisms, Matt Amos. I could tell you a story about this church. An amazing thing happened to this church because when we got there, they were decimated. You know why? Y'all remember Woodstock? Y'all remember the story on TV? This is the church that was sued because they withdrew fellowship from a lesbian. A woman that left her husband who was a member of the church, and she left him with children and then marries so-called another woman. And the church said, please don't do this. We beg you, don't do this. They pleaded, they prayed, they did everything they could. They finally withdrew from her, and then she sued them. Oh, CNN ate it up. MSNBC took the name of the church through the mud. This was all happening during COVID. And then they called for the riots. Thank God they didn't happen. Matt Weymouth called me and he says, Rob, our morale has never been lower. He said, could you come do one of these? I said, I'm 2 years out, Matt. He said, Rob, I need it now. I said, I'll come. So we just inserted a date into our day off, and we went. They had 24 baptisms the first 12 months. This church has been amazing. They've hit their marks every single year. There are over 200 today. think they're running around 250. Evangelism heals, doesn't it? It heals. This right here is Hartford County. Ever heard of that church? You know why? Because it just started. They said, we're going to start our church out with evangelism. I said, great. And they said, Rob, we want to have your program here. I said, good. I said, I'll send you the materials. They actually traveled to hear me. The elders went back into preacher, and they actually call him preacher. And anyway, they had 8 baptisms the very first 6 months they had. This is Coweta. They have the record, 31.2% baptism rate. His name is Keno Shrum. He's actually one of our regional trainers. That church has almost tripled in size in 3 years. Now, I'm going to ask a question to everybody. Does it work? Don't believe me. Someone says, oh, Rob, of course it works for you, but it won't work for us. Did it work for them? When people tell me evangelism doesn't work, you're not looking at the same field I'm looking at. I realize I gave you some pretty difficult numbers. I showed you some pretty depressing numbers, but I'm encouraged. I'm encouraged because I know that we can turn the ship. I'm encouraged because I know that if we do what God asks, God will bless us. He is the God of victory. He's not a losing God. He's a winning God. We don't serve a God that wants us to lose. We serve a God that wants to win. We serve a God that understands that if we'll do what He asks, He will bless us, brethren. But if we sit in our church buildings and don't engage the lost, we will die. And it's just up to the church. It's just up to churches what they want to do. So back to the Bible. How do you use it? Well, let me give you a crash course in back to the Bible. All right. Everybody take your Evangelism Simplified Guidebook, turn to page 102, or you can just look at the screen. And again, those of you who are students that are watching, your materials, about $400 of materials are available at the school. You just need to contact the school, and they're going to provide those for you. We have a whole bag of tools for you to use and gifts from our school. Here it is, back to the Bible. I start out every Bible study with this survey, and it's awkward. So I changed the way I do it. I used to just give it to them and say, hey, would you fill this out for me? That's awkward, man. I mean, it's like you're taking a test, and people don't like to be tested. So now I make it pretty conversational. Can I demonstrate? Hey, Taylor, would you come up here just for a minute? I want to bring Taylor up here, and I'm going to put him in a chair. And Caleb, I'm just going to warn you. I'm going to put Caleb in a chair and put him right here on the stage. And I'm going to demonstrate what this looks like. All right. So Taylor has been visiting. In fact, let's just make you a first-time visitor. I'll just walk you through the whole process. So Taylor's a first-time visitor. He walks into the church, and I'm on the visitor team. Yes, we have visitor teams. They're highly trained Navy SEALs. They know exactly what to ask, what to do, what not to do. Oh, we don't leave this to chance. See, in our school, we're going to train every single member what they're supposed to do. And we're going to have only a very select, small group of people that greet visitors. And we're going to put Angry Fred somewhere else. We will not let Angry Fred be on this team. And we will not engage Gabby Gossip. We will keep her away from Taylor. Let's say I'm on that team. And my wife and I see him walk in. He sits down. What am I going to do? My wife and I are highly trained. You know what I'm going to do? He's going to walk in. The first thing I want him to do is sit down. He sits down. I'm going to sit behind him or in front of him, but I will not sit on the same pew. You know why? It intimidates him. I'm going to give him his space. He doesn't want to be crowded. So I'm going to sit either in front or behind him, and then I'm going to look over my shoulder. I'm going to say, hey, my name's Rob. What's your name?
Taylor.
Hey, Taylor, this is my wife, Nicole. It's nice to meet you. We're glad you're here. You visiting today?
Yes, sir.
Hey, great. Where you live?
In the area.
I'm glad you're here. Your first time here?
Yes, sir.
All right. And, hey, where'd you move from?
I'm from Louisiana.
Louisiana. Man, I love Louisiana. Where in Louisiana?
Franklinton.
Oh, well, I don't think I've ever been to Franklinton. Where's that at?
Middle of nowhere, Mississippi state line.
Oh.
So, right in the middle.
Right in the middle. Very good. Hey, Taylor, we got some gifts we'd like to give visitors. I'll be right back. And so I'm going to go get my gift bag. And my wife right now is teaching these ladies how to do simple things like make gift bags for visitors. Every visitor should get a gift. One of the rules of visitors, you never go empty-handed. You never go up to a visitor without a gift. So I'm going to give you a gift. So I'm going to give you this nice bag of gifts. It's going to have a cup in it and pins in it and breath mints in it and gum and whatever. You know, we're just going to give you this. And that was really nice of you, to give me that. Appreciate so much you doing that. And as soon as I'm done doing that, watch what I'm going to do. Everybody listening? Because this is very important. Our churches are terrible at this. Hey, we're a card-sending church. We like to send cards to visitors. Can I get your name and address so we could send you some cards? What's he going to say? Every single time. The only people that will not give us their name and address are convicts. They're on the run. That's the only people. Everybody else gives me their name and address. And so in all the years I've been doing this, I've had one person not give me their name and address. And I said, why won't he give it? Rob, I think he's on the run. I said, okay, we don't want it. Keep going, just keep going. I've just given him a gift. Of course he's going to give it to you. What's the traditional way we do this, by the way? Oh, let me give it to you. Testing 1, 2, 3. Is it, makes a testing 1, 2, 3. If there's any visitors this morning in the pews, we got a card in the pew back in front of you. If you'll take that card and fill it out, we'd have a record of your presence. How effective is that? I mean, how many visitors fill out the cards? I went to one church. They were sophisticated. You know what they said to me? We're a sophisticated church. We use the QR code. How's that working for you? Not very well. They don't like to do that either. I'm going to get his information 100% of the time. So I've got a method, and I'm going to talk a lot more about this tomorrow. So I better not say any more. I'm going to get the information I need, all right? I'm sitting in front of you. You're sitting behind after the service. Hey, man, what would you think about our service today?
I enjoyed it.
Well, good. Hey, we got a little custom here. We like to take visitors out to eat our treat. There's a great little place down there. You like steak?
Yes, sir.
All right. How about on us? Could we take you out to get to know you? All right, so you notice my progressions? All right, so I'm a very methodical person. I do the same thing every time. I teach elders, I teach preachers, churches how to do this, right? So what happens if your church does not have a plan? He who has no plan is, help me guys, he who has no plan is planning to fail. It's very simple. Okay, I have a plan. So we go out to eat, and as I'm sitting there talking to him, I find out that he likes to fish. He loves fishing. And he's just moved into the area. Hey, man, I bet you haven't been fishing since you moved here, have you? There is a great secret fishing spot. You got any time this week? You going to be off? I'll take you. I'll show you where it's at. Man, I hate fishing alone. So I'm going to make a bond with him. It doesn't matter if it was playing basketball. It didn't matter if it was working out. It didn't matter what it was. Whatever he wants to do, I'm going to want to do it with him. Why? Why is that? I'm forming a relationship with him. It doesn't matter to me what it is. All right? Rob, you're not being very genuine. Yeah, I am. Because he's a soul made in the image of God, and I love him. I don't care what it is. Now, is this biblical? Is what I'm doing biblical? Let's find out. Everybody take your Bible. Let's see if it's biblical or not. Go to 1 Corinthians. And let's read from Paul, what he wrote in chapter 9. 1 Corinthians chapter 9, and let's see what the Apostle Paul wrote. I'll start with verse number, I don't know. Let's see here. Actually, I said 1 Corinthians chapter 9. And let's see what Paul said. All right, verse number 22. To the weak, I became weak, that I may gain some. And verse number 21. He said, to them that are without the law, as without the law. Verse 20, as unto the Jews, I became a Jew. Verse 22, I am made all things to all men that I might by all means save some. Is it biblical? Brethren, is it biblical for us to adapt our culture and adapt our likes and dislikes in order to reach someone? Absolutely, it's biblical. And so what I'm trying to suggest to you is that it doesn't matter if you like to jog or not, you're going jogging. Okay? It doesn't matter if you like video games or not. You're going to play video games. Whatever it is that you got to do to connect with the person that you're trying to reach is what you got to do. If he said, yeah, I like to play golf. Well, brethren, I got golf clubs. If I need to play golf, I'll go golfing. Is everybody with me on this? So I'm going to build a bond or a bridge to Taylor, because I know if I can build the bridge, I know if I do that, all right, I'm going to be able to eventually get the Bible study. So we start hanging out. Guess what the church is doing during this whole time? Cards, lots of cards. Food. Ladies are bringing food over. He just moved in. Maybe some of the men helped him move. Maybe we're mowing lawn, but we're prospecting the contact. I got a contact. He was a visitor. Hot prospect. They're the hottest contacts you get. We'll talk about that tomorrow. So I'm building this relationship. How long does it take? Not long. You know why? Well, you live in the most shallow culture the world's ever seen. I'm sorry to say that about our culture, but this is. We're shallow. It's the result of virtual stuff. Virtual stuff makes us very shallow. We make friends like really fast, right? And when we have personal contact, it's really quick because it kind of feels good, we shook hands, and that was really neat. That was kind of made me feel a little bit different. Shaking hands is kind of better than an emoji. I don't get as excited about emojis as I do shaking hands. Brethren, I know I'm being a little facetious, but I'm very serious about this. All right? When you have personal contact with people, it changes the whole thing. It changes the whole thing. We're eating together. Now, watch this. Here's my 3 transition questions. I hope you guys have written these down because they work every time. Hey, Taylor, what do you think about the what do you think about the Petersville Church of Christ?
I enjoy it.
You like it?
I like people.
Yeah. And hey, do you know a lot about the Petersville Church of Christ?
Not really.
Oh. Would you like to know more about the Petersville Church of Christ? Maybe we can sit and talk about it?
Yes, sir.
Brother, I get a yes almost every time. What did he ask me to do? Right there, Brother Hollis, what did he just ask me for? He asked me? I didn't have to. Would you like to have a Bible study? He asked me? You see how I did that? He asked me for the study. By me asking questions, he returned the question. That's how I get my studies. It worked. I've been doing this for 25 plus years, actually longer than that. And I'm telling you, it's easier now for me to get a Bible study than any time in my life. I have never found it easier to get a Bible study than right now. But did I invest some time in him? Did we practice congregational evangelism? We did. Did I do it on my own? No. He's got 60 cards sitting in his house. 60 cards sitting in his house from that church. So you did your job, I do my job. That's how it is. And so as we're going through this, what we're finding is that first, make a contact. Second, prospect the contact. Third, enter into the Bible study. Now, let's go to page 102. He's in my house. We've had dinner, and I'm just trying to make this very practical for you. I want you to understand that this is real life. I'm sitting there, and I say, hey, Taylor, you and I have talked a lot about God, and I guess we both believe in God, right? You and I both believe in God. We both believe in the Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit. You and I have talked about Jesus rose from the dead on the third. Yeah. And Taylor, you and I, you said you read your Bible. I read my Bible. And I believe my Bible. You believe your Bible. And you believe God to do everything he said in the Bible. You believe it's the Word of God. No mistakes, contradictions. No, I don't either. Huh. And, hey, I was thinking back recently. I was 15 years old when it happened to me, and I was saved. Taylor, do you remember back in your life, have you been saved? Okay, you've been saved. Taylor, tell us, what did you do to become saved? Tell us about your conversion experience.
You want me to tell,
Just make it up.
Well, I was at the Pentecostal church, and they had a sermon, and everyone said, come forward. And when I came forward, they told me I was saved. They
told you were saved. Or did you do something like a prayer or something? Is there something involved in it?
Yeah, they wanted me to pray.
Okay.
They just said, whenever I was ready, go back. I can get up and leave. I'm saved.
Okay. And so guess what I'm doing right now? Am I getting all the questions answered without making him take a test? I am. See, again, in evangelism, you're thinking, why do I want to ask these questions? Because right now he's giving me honest answers. Okay, if I don't ask these questions in the beginning, as he learns, his answers sometimes could change. So I know he's being honest. And he gives me all the answers. And by the way, Taylor, have you ever been baptized? Yes. Okay, when did that baptism happen? Was it before or after all this happened?
It was a week after.
A week after. I got everything I need. He has provided me every answer I need now to take him to the cross. So what I've done is I have created a foundation for the study. How about if he said, no, I'm not so sure I believe in the Bible. Well, I'm not going to use back to the Bible. Guess what I'm going to use? Believe the Bible. I'm going to change my study methods. Now, you can say, oh, Rob, there's this great book written by Eric Lyons. I know. I love Eric. I love Kyle. I love all those guys. Please consider what I'm saying. Giving someone a book to read is not nearly effective as having a Bible study with them. So I'm not against books, but this is a course on how to have a Bible study. So I would not just say, hey, read this book when you're done, let me know. No, that is not what I'm going to do. I said, hey, I've got this little book called Believe the Bible. We'll walk through it together. Now that's more effective, all right? Or could I say, hey, there's this video on World Video Bible School on, the existence of God. Well, watch that and let me know what you think. Well, no, that's not the primary tool I'm going to use. If it's the only thing I can use, he said, man, I don't have time right now, and, he keeps putting me off, right? I'll say, hey, watch this link when you get, I may do something like that. But what's the number one thing I want? I want a personal Bible study. Why? Because I get a 90% success rate. Do you get a 90% success rate when they read Muscle and a Shovel? Yes or no? No. No, you don't. Do you get a 90% success rate when they watch some type of a video? No. So you got to understand where we're at. What I want is the study. I've got the study. We've gone through the preliminary survey questions. So now, what are we going to do? We're going to open up back to the Bible. And we're going to begin. Let's look at the first question. John 8:32. What does it say there?
You shall know the truth, and the truth shall make you free.
You shall know the truth, and the truth shall make you free. John 8:32. Taylor, Jesus says the blank will make you free. What is it? The truth. How many of you can do that? Brother Hollis, can you do that? Can you? Okay. Brother, can you do that too? Can you answer that question? Let me make a statement. See if you can follow me. If you can't understand that, you're all right. You're going to heaven. Yeah, if you can't understand that, if you literally can't understand that, you're okay. All right, you're a child and you can't comprehend, or you're handicapped in some way, you're all right. What I'm trying to suggest is that anyone who's accountable can do this. You don't have to be a Rhodes Scholar. You don't have to be an academic. I would suggest it's better that you're not. The Church of Christ was not started, by the way, with academics, theologians, and Rhodes Scholars. The Church of Christ was started with fishermen, just common people. I've always thought that's actually a positive, that when we reach out to people, we don't expect them to be, doctors and lawyers and have academic degrees. The average Joe can get it. I've always thought that to be one of the positives about Christianity. So we're just going to go through the study. Now, let me give you a couple tips about Bible studies. Number one, I try never to study with more than one person, unless it's a couple. Okay, I do not do group studies. There's a reason. And if you want to write this down, it's okay. But let me give you the reasons why I don't do group studies. The problem one person has becomes the problem everybody has. Let me say that again. The problem one person has becomes the problem everybody has. So if you're in a group study and you got 10 people and one person says, hey, I want to know a little bit more about the Sabbath. My church teaches us that we're supposed to worship. Tell me more about the Sabbath. Then somebody else says, I've always wondered about that. I'm with him. I think we should be on the Sabbath. Brother, you have completely lost control. Group studies are not a good idea. Not using back to the Bible. Now, I'm all for group studies if you want to get a group of people together and study the book of John and peel people away who are very interested to do a personal Bible study. I'm all in. So if you're sitting with a group and hey, let's just walk through the book of John, and I notice this guy over here is really excited about that. You're really focused. Hey, man, my wife and I, hey, we got this other study, and I think you'd like it. Why don't we do that together tomorrow night? That's what I do. Is everybody with me? So these are just tips that I want to give you that I've learned from experience, okay? When I do a Bible study, I like to have a silent partner. The key word is silent. You're not to gang up against them. You just let him. And the silent partner is to help him find the books of the Bible. The silent partner is to kick me if I talk too much. And it does hurt when they kick in the shin. The silent partner is to remind me if I skip something or if I get distracted and I got to take care of something. They keep the study going. The silent partner is a very good idea. And it's always a good idea to involve church members. How about if you involved the youth? How about if you called one of the teenagers and say, hey, would you be my silent partner? Would you come with me? I got this Bible. Brethren, do you know who taught me how to do Bible studies? Wade Brown and Anthony Castillo, Northern Oaks. And they would call me, hey, Rob, I got this Bible study. You want to come with me? Yeah, I'll come with you. Man, I was addicted. After the first study, I couldn't stop. I said, man, this is the most exciting thing I've ever done. And I couldn't stop. I just kept. So if you'll involve other people and let them be the silent partner, you'll increase your evangelistic efforts in your local church. All right, now, so we're going to go through book number 1. It's going to be real simple. In fact, there's a chart on page number 66, chart 2. It's called the Map of Revelations, how God reveals himself. So this is kind of how God how God communicates to us. That's book 1. That's the entirety of book 1. Book 1 basically teaches that God started with all the truth. He gave all the truth to the Son, who gave all the truth to the Holy Spirit. The Holy Spirit gave all the truth to the apostles. And the apostles, well, they put all that truth in the Bible, and the Bible's divided into 2 sections, Old and New. We're under the New, not the Old. That's book 1. That is the entirety of book 1. Is that important? Yeah. You know why? Because if you don't cover that, when you get to baptism, this is what they're going to do to you, brother. Hey, an angel last night told me. No, they didn't. We already learned that's not how it works. Oh, hey, David in the Old Testament, you know David used the instrument? It's not going to work. We already covered that. So a good Bible study method, if you want to write this down or if you want to remember this, what does a Bible study method do that you can't do without? So you could wing it. Well, I'm pretty smart. I don't need no method. You probably need a method more than anybody in the world with that attitude. I've seen guys like this. Oh, man, I don't need. Brethren, here's what a method does. A method anticipates objections and removes them. It's methodical. And so because you have been able to take care of this stuff in book 1, it doesn't come up in book 3. I want to give you guys a little break, maybe like 5 minutes to stretch your legs, go to the bathroom, and I'll let Taylor get out of the hot seat. And we're going to finish up here in just a few minutes. I think we're going to be finished. The schedule finishes at what time today? What's our finish time today? Oh, is it 3 o'clock? Okay, then we're finished. We'll pick this up tomorrow. I did not know. So I apologize. Y'all been very patient with me. Thank you. Thank you. All right. Make sure you take your materials, fellas. If you bring the bags back, if you're coming back tomorrow, I may share some things with you and how to use it. And he's welcome to take one. He's welcome to take one. Yeah. All right. Thank y'all. No. I lose track of time very quickly. Yes.